welcome back. We're here today again in the workshop and we're looking at today the Ideal Suzannah Dressage Saddle. These are really popular saddles. They're one of our best sellers. And why? Well, why don't you sit back, make yourself a cup of tea and hopefully you'll find out. Everybody in the world pretty much has heard of the Ideal Suzannah Dressage Saddle. Why is that? Well, they're hugely popular. They're without a doubt one of the most popular saddles that we sell, and there's a reason for that. They are brilliant. So let's have a little look at it today. It won't take long. We'll have a quick run through what makes these Ideal Suzannah Dressage Saddles so utterly fabulous. Now you can see the saddle, but you can't see me. I need to shrink. I've even put it up on my desk to make it easier. Let me talk first and then we'll look at the saddle. So, why are they so popular? They're really popular for loads of reasons. Number one, they're made by Ideal. Everyone knows Ideal. They're brilliant. They're a really brilliant brand. There's a handful now left of UK saddle manufacturers based in the UK, manufacturing in the UK and being brilliant still. And Ideal are one of them. They're very well known. They're a really big company. They make lots of saddles, and their two probably best known dressage saddles are the Ideal Suzannah and also the Ideal Jessica. Today we're going to look at the Suzannah. We will also look at the Jessica at some point as well, but today is all about the Suzannah. If you go on the Ideal website, you'll see that they describe them as a serious saddle for a serious rider, and that's quite a good description, I think, because they are a pretty serious saddle. And why? So before we get looking at like the cosmetic and the finer details and the seat and everything and the knee blocks and all of the stuff that we think about when we think about dressage saddles, let's just take a little rewind step back and think about the inside structure of this saddle. So the inside of a saddle is called a tree, and that's like the skeleton, the structure inside the saddle. That tree, that skeleton, has to fit your horse before you even think about everything else around it fitting the horse. That tree has to be a good shape for your horse. So what trees are in the Suzannahs? The trees within the Suzannah saddles are designed for horses that are quite, I don't really know what the word, like dressage-y? Crap description. So kind of fairly well muscled, where they're well muscled through the front and then fairly broad ribs. The head is like the front of the saddle here. On the Suzannah here, it's got what you call an open head. So the head itself, it's quite broad through here, and it's almost quite pulled open here. So it almost sort of flares out here, and it's kind of like when you look at it from the front. You see here? It's almost like an upside down U instead of an upside down V. So when you look at it from the front, instead of it being this shape, it's like this shape. And that is really good for those horses who are built up through the back of their trapezius muscles. Do you know what trapezius muscle is? So think of your horses with a muscle kind of just underneath that. They have like a little triangle of muscles that builds up, and all those muscles and the surrounding muscles are the ones that really build up in horses, especially dressage horses. You think of when you start doing all that lateral work and things with your horses crossing over their legs and things like that, you can often see that or feel that as a saddle fitter through the back of their trapezius muscles and all those surrounding muscles. And these saddles really address that because they're lovely and broad and open through here. So it's nothing to do with the width of the saddle. You know, some saddles you look at and some are this narrow and some are this wide, and that's like the width of the saddle. It's not to do with the width, because these obviously come in all the same widths as normal saddles. It's to do with the shape here at the head, and the width kind of through the front here leaves plenty of room for muscles to develop around the trapezius and the wither area. So these saddles are fabulous for that. The other thing about them is their tree is quite wide. And again, I don't mean wide like the width at the front, you know, the bit that we measure. Wide as in a lot of surface bearing area to put on the horse's back. So you can't be putting one of these saddles on with a lovely broad surface bearing area if your horse's ribs are itty bitty, because it'll just hang over the edge. So your horse has to have a fairly decent set of ribs on it to be able to take these fairly decent set of panels. See these? Good panels. Good wide panels. Good nice and wide all the way through the length of the gullet there. So far we're thinking about being really open in the head, quite flat through here, and then really broad through the seat and through the tree to bear your weight across the horse's back in that sense, a good set of ribs. Now in terms of wither shape, these are designed for something with a bit of wither. You can get a fairly decent wither underneath here. If your horse has got no wither, don't cry, because you can get something called a low-headed version of this. Today we're just talking about the average off-the-shelf Suzannah, but bearing in mind that Ideal make all of their saddles to order, so you can tweak them a little bit. One of the more common tweaks is the low-headed version. They do a low-headed tree, which is the same tree as this, but it's designed for something with slightly less wither. So if your horse does have little to no wither, then don't panic, you can get a different version of the saddle for them. But the absolute standard Ideal Suzannah is designed for something with a bit of a wither and a fairly straight back, broad ribs, well muscled through the front, good trapezius muscles. So that's the tree. There's other things about the saddle that determine how well it fits your horse, like panels and things like that. But we're going to put that bit at the end, because the thing I'm going to talk about now is how it fits you as a rider. Because I know a lot of people, when they're looking for dressage saddles, the first thing they think is, oh, I like a deep seat and big knee blocks, or oh, I like a narrow twist, or oh, I like a wide twist. So we're going to talk about that stuff now really quickly, and then we'll skip to the stuff about how it fits your horse. As a rider, a lot of dressage people, certainly the serious riders with the serious saddles, often want a deep seat. They like a good deep seat that kind of locks them in, and they like a big knee block. Now the Suzannah has both of them without being too locky. So by locky I mean, you know those saddles that you sit in and you can't move, which some people love, absolutely love them, and I have no problems with those saddles at all. But if you don't want to be too locked in, but still like to feel that nice depth of seat and a good sized knee block, then these saddles can be good. So they've got a really good deep seat. It's a sort of seat that when you sit in it, it feels a little bit like you're sitting on a sofa, and it kind of hugs your bum, gives it a little bit of a kiss. So good deep seat here, bum squishy, sofa, comfy, nice, with a really decent sized knee block. Let me move my camera. This knee block here is an under the flap knee block. So but you can see here, it's a really good sized block. And then the knee pad on top is moulded, so it's called a cupped knee pad. And the reason it's cupped like this is because it means that you get that benefit of the knee block. Imagine if this wasn't cupped and your flap was flat, you have to press a little bit harder with your knee to get that benefit from the knee block. But it's already moulded around the knee block because it's cupped, and therefore you get the benefit of that nice big knee block without having to really use your legs. However, it's not got an external block, so some people really like the external blocks, which is where that knee block basically sits on the outside here. They're a little bit more locky, e.g. they lock you in a little bit more than these do, but these are decent sized knee blocks that your leg sits in there, locks in there nicely without being too restricted. And it's the same for the seat. So the seat here, deep, really comfy without being too restrictive. So because of that, you can really sit into it nicely. You can absorb some of that bounce from that extended trot that they're doing and things like that. These are really good. A lot of people say to me, oh, I really like a narrow twist. And then sometimes you put them in a narrow twisted saddle and they say, oh, ouch, that hurts my noo-noo. So some people think they like a narrow twist, but don't. Some people hear that they should like a narrow twist and therefore say they like a narrow twist. Well, one thing you're not going to get on an Ideal Suzannah is a narrow twist. Now again, they're all made to order, so if you order one, we can always make it with a slightly narrower twist. But on the whole, because it's so open-headed through here, it's really designed for that really big, thick wither and thick trapezius muscles, a good decent spinous processes. So spinous processes are the bits of bone that you can feel at the top of your horse's back, so the wither and along there. Those bones that you feel are called spinous processes. They're processes of bones that stick up from the spine, and these saddles are really good for the horses that have got quite wide spinous processes. And because of that, if your horse has got big wide spinous processes that sit up in here, you don't really want to be trying to put a narrow twist or a narrow waist on your saddle. So what is a twist or waist, I hear you say? Well, it's this bit here. So this here is called, like this narrow part that sits right between your legs by your private bits. This bit here is called the twist. Now you can see here, it's quite a thick twist. Some saddles have got like an inch twist, and other saddles are wide like this. Now what does that mean for you as a rider? Well, a lot of people think the narrow twist means that your legs sit really close and they hang better. But that's not entirely true. Well, for starters, if your horse needs a wider twist, then you have to have a wider twist, because there's no point in spending loads of money on a saddle for your horse and all of that malarkey, and then just having it pinch here across their spine, because you want their spines to be able to flex and move. You want your horse to be able to bend its ribs, move underneath your saddle, and they can't do that if it's clamped in. So you need enough of a twist, because if you think about it, this twist through here kind of corresponds to how much room is there in the tree and underneath, so you don't want to have it really clampy and tight. And as a rider, actually, I find that most people can think that they need something or want something, and then they can try a saddle. Sometimes they'll realise they're absolutely fine with a wider twist. I've not met many people that have ridden in these saddles that don't find them anything other than very comfortable. Very, very comfortable. The seat itself is so well padded. It's got a really well padded seat, and the way that the curve of the seat sits, the way it sits you into like the deepest part of the curve, really sits you into a nice position. I've sat a lot of people onto this, let's face it, pretty wide twist, who have said previously, I can only ride narrow twisted saddles. You think, well, you can't have a narrow twisted saddle on this horse because your horse's spinous process is 3 inches wide, therefore we can't put like a narrow twist on that. So why don't you try riding in one of these saddles? And they ride in one of these saddles, and lo and behold, they're like, oh my gosh, it's like riding in a sofa, because they're really comfy. The way that the seat is shaped, the way that the twist is padded, and the way that the knee blocks are kind of there but not there. Well, they are there. They're kind of there, but they're like big. They're really big, but you don't feel like they're restricting your leg. You feel like your leg is allowed to hang behind them rather than pushing your leg back. The angle of the knee block is also quite good, and again, all made to order. You can change the angle if you wanted to on a new one, but on these standard ones, the knee block is at a good angle. Like, you're not forced, your leg isn't forced back and pushing your hips too far open, at the same time as your knee doesn't kind of creep up over it. They're a really good knee block. So we've gone through the tree, the seat, the knee blocks, the twist. Let's have a look at the parts of the saddle that affect your horse. So number one, let's look at the really simple thing, the girthing. So girthing. Dressage saddles tend to have very similar girthing to each other, and this comes with a really standard kind of dressage girthing. So dressage girthing, one of my favourite topics, so if you want to ask me some questions, please do ask them below. Love to talk about dressage girthing, love it. Anyway, so this comes with quite standard dressage girthing, so let's have a look at it. So again, this is a standard version of the saddle, and it comes with this little V of webbing here. It's called a V-web. Sliding V-web, self-adjusting V-web, self-adjusting web, self-adjusting strap, that sort of thing. And it's a really good little strap to have because it means, like it says on the tin, it sort of self-adjusts a little bit and it can move. It's also really good because it means we can turn it into a balance strap if we want to or need to at any point in the future. They come with this little spare bit of webbing here for a front strap. This is for you to put your girth strap on if you don't need a point strap. The majority of people though with dressage saddles will use a point strap, and that's what this is here. It comes from the point of the tree up in here underneath the knee block where we can't see it, and it comes out through the back of the knee block here. You see, it comes out of the back here. On these saddles we also have the option of something called warm blood girthing, which is where we can bring out the tip here, so we can feed this in through there and back out of the tip of the knee block. And that is called warm blood girthing, and it's because it's designed for warm bloods to throw their saddles forward up the horse's neck, or for horses that really need the saddle holding away from their shoulders. So basically it comes out of the tip there, and it acts as an even sort of stronger point strap than it is as a normal point strap in there. So there's lots of girthing options on these saddles. Warm blood, normal point strap, if we don't need a point strap, and then the V-web here, which we can turn into anything we want. As saddle fitters we can tweak this and put stitches in and things like that, but how it is at the moment is good because you get that little bit of kind of balancing action going on. This is obviously, whilst we're under here, this is obviously a normal dual flap saddle. It's got 2 flaps, top flap, sweat flap. Just to confuse matters slightly, they can also come in a mono flap, which is 1 flap. I've done a video about mono flaps before, I'll pop the link up to it somewhere, but this particular one and the most common versions of these saddles, the standard versions, are this dual flap. So last things about the saddle, how does it fit on your horse? What is it about the saddle that makes it fit your horse nicely, and what sort of horses does it fit? As we discussed earlier, it likes those horses with a big broad ribs because it's got big broad panels and big broad tree on it. So you want a horse with a nice big set of ribs on it, because they have this lovely broad panel here. So they're flocked panels, which means we as saddle fitters can adjust them nice and easily. We can put flocking in and out. They come with the Jacob's wool in them, which is this wool here. Ding. They are flocked in a normal way by normal saddle fitters all the time. So the panels are lovely. They've got a really good, this is called a rear gusset here. This is a standard rear gusset. You can see there's quite a lot here. Really nice, sort of squishes out, and again adds to that kind of width that you get. As it squishes out, you get so much lovely coverage and weight distribution on your horse's back. They also have something called a front gusset through here. This bit of leather here is called a front gusset. And this is a standard front gusset here, again all made to order. You can change the gussets as much as you want. You can have a deeper rear gusset, deeper front gusset. For example, we can sometimes get these on the Frisian horses who are really uphill, but they need like an extra inch in the rear gusset. That's all doable if you go from new. But again, looking at the standard one today, standard rear gusset, standard front gusset, all really adaptable, loads of room in there for your saddle fitter to be able to change it and tweak it. Designed for something that needs a little bit of support here, a little bit of support here, and lots of width. I mean, look at this. Look at that lovely shape here at the front. It's a really, really, really nice shaped saddle at the front. It's brilliant for those big shoulders that want to move, big shoulders that want to power down the centre line in the dressage arena. I feel like I've missed something out. If I have missed something out, please shout, ask questions below. I love answering questions all the time, so please, if you have a question, ask it. And remember, the more you ask questions or comment or like or subscribe or anything like that, it really, really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm thing. So please feel free to ask questions. Don't think you're getting on my nerves. You're not. You're actually helping me out in a roundabout kind of way. Plus, I love answering them. So if you can think of anything that I've missed out, please shout. I'm sure I've missed something out. Don't forget to check out my channel, the rest of the videos, and tune into some other saddle fitting related ones. I'm back out on the road now, which means I'm out saddle fitting, so hopefully I'll be able to get some videos on the road, not just in my workshop. So if you're interested in anything like that, then stay tuned and keep up to date with the latest videos. I hope you're all staying happy, staying healthy, and staying safe. Lots and lots of love.